Mr. Chairman, good morning to you, Mr. Secretary. Let me say from my perspective, I wish the President well and you well in your incredibly responsible positions, and I certainly wish you well next week in London. My questioning regards two matters in your testimony: credit default swaps and other OTC derivatives, and money market mutual funds. You indicate regarding credit default swaps that in our proposed regulatory system, the government will regulate the markets for credit default swaps and over-the-counter derivatives for the first time. Mr. Secretary, can that be done by regulation, or will that require statutory change? And does it also require regulation or statutory change in London and in Asia and in other places in the world?
We're examining right now the question about what requires legislation in this area, what we can do with existing authority. We actually can do quite a lot with existing authority. But right now, broad authority for the centralized parts of our payment systems are segmented and separated. No one's really accountable for looking at the whole thing, and that's something we have to fix. I do think it's very important that in these markets, which are global markets, you want to have a global solution. You don't want to have separate national solutions.
I agree completely.
And our hope is that we can work with the Europeans on a global framework, a global infrastructure which has appropriate global oversight, so we don't have a balkanized system at the global level like we had at the national level.
My concern, of course, is that if we engage in regulation or statutory change here, and this does not occur in London and in Asia, that money will go to those centers of commerce, and we will be back in the situation where we have found ourselves.
I completely agree with you, and at the center of our agenda is, again, a recognition that we can't move here alone.
And then regarding money market mutual funds, which I had thought were safe, and I think the American people felt safe regarding that instrument, clearly different from the sophistication of credit default swaps. After the collapse of Lehman Brothers, we discovered, and certainly I discovered for the first time, that they could not be safe. And you indicate in your testimony that we believe that the SEC should strengthen the regulatory framework regarding money market mutual funds. And my question there is, can we do that alone, or does this also have to occur in London and in Asia?
Excellent question. My sense is we can do a lot here that would leave our system more protected. But of course, as in every area of this, on the capital requirements, everything else, we'll look at whether there need to be complementary changes elsewhere.
And you will be discussing this, I assume, Mr. Secretary, next week when you are in London?
Well, I'm not sure how detailed in each of these provisions we're going to go, but absolutely we're going to be discussing with our colleagues a common approach to efforts at the global level that focus on the stability of our national systems.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Ellison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, thank you for your testimony and your work today. Will the stress test that the Treasury plan is considered